You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Today is 4/28/21. Well, the Fed's been meeting the past 2 days, the FOMC, Fed Open Market Committee. That's where they set the short-term rates and try their best to reassure the markets that everything is fine and that the stock market maybe shouldn't keep going up astronomically, but should at least stay where it is. I think if they can achieve that, then they call it a successful meeting and they'll move on. Well, what are your thoughts? Why don't you send me an email? Personal email address is kl@kerrylutz.com. Right now, our good friend David Scranton is with us to opine on the latest machinations of the Fed and what effect that's going to have on the real economy. David, welcome back. It's been a while. It's great to have you.
Well, it's great to be here. It has been a while. I think I missed you throughout this entire pandemic so far.
Seems like it here. Yeah, what pandemic? It's hopefully going to come to an end because the vaccine is curing us and it's going to get rid of it all and make everybody happy again. And we'll go back to the so-called normal. But in the meantime, the Fed's got a tightrope act to conduct here, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And, the problem is they purposely in the past have not put their foot in their mouths because they didn't want to. They did it this time to try to give confidence to the markets and saying that the absolute earliest they consider hiking rates at all would be 2023. So if they were to raise rates anytime before that, it could cause the market to really turn abruptly and start to head downhill. So they've got to be really careful in their language. They're not going to raise rates this time, next couple of meetings. But it's the language you got to watch out for and how they signal what they're going to do in the future and when.
So how can they possibly assure the markets that they're not going to raise for 2 years? You think about it, just close to 2 years. You think about it, if the economy really heats up like they say it's happening, I'm not sure I believe it, but maybe this quarter is going to be a big quarter. Maybe the party is going to carry over to the next quarter. But doesn't that tie their hands?
Kind of. The issue becomes, this is the tough part. They want to get restrictive too early because if they do, then they can just shut the valve off in an instant and the economy comes to a screeching stop. So they don't want to do that. The real question is this inflation we're seeing right now, is it temporary or is it permanent? And you can see it in the commodities and the price of lumber. My brother-in-law is an electrician. He says he quoted a job, and by the time he went back to look again, just a couple weeks later to look at the price of copper wire, it almost doubled. And he said, I got to back out of my quote. I can't do what I promised anymore. Those are real inflationary costs. But the question is, are they temporary or permanent? So I think the Fed is trying to make the argument they're temporary, that once this spike in demand ends, and the supply chain disruptions get fixed, that we'll be back to normal and we'll be back to maybe a 2% inflation environment. And I think they're secretly crossing their fingers and toes hoping that to be true because they don't want to have to, essentially raise rates too quickly because they know that's bad for the market.
Yeah, well, hope and change. We've had that before, and it was a useful campaign slogan once upon a time, but I'm not so sure that it is a useful monetary slogan or that the Fed should be engaging in hopium when the stakes are so high.
Yeah, and it's interesting though. This is unprecedented. We've never before intentionally shut down the economy. So the Fed really doesn't know what to expect when you open it back up again. It's kind of like as a pilot, as a licensed airline transport pilot, we're always taught to practice literally shutting down an engine in flight and starting up the engine again. And it's good practice, gives you the confidence to know you can do it and go through the procedure. But there's something about shutting down a perfectly good engine at altitude that just doesn't feel right. And you never know. Every once in a while, it just doesn't start up again. Something is wrong. And that's what the Fed's up against right now. That's their biggest concern. So they're going to wait as long as possible before they do something. And if they do something early, it's not going to be tightening per se, but it's going to be maybe just easing a little bit less. With this, 120 billion a month or so on the quantitative easing, maybe cutting that back, maybe doing just a little bit less. That'll help the long-term part of the yield curve float up a little bit, which is fine. If long-term interest rates go up organically because of a healthy economy, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, well, I was in computers for a long time, and like you say about an airplane engine, you never want to shut it down mid-flight because you never know. That's the way it is or was with computers, with servers when we all had them once upon a time, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Like, I never wanted to shut that server down because, and it's true with computers now, I don't really like to ever shut my computer down. I'd rather leave it running, uses hardly any energy to speak of, not a meaningful amount. And that way I don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to come back on, because so many times you shut something off, David, and it doesn't come back on. And is the economy going to come back on? Well, when you have these petty dictators, otherwise known as governors in states, still keeping stuff shut down,
right,
good to the people, even though COVID's run rampant with mask mandates and lockdowns and everything else. And then we saw the COVID rate go down in Texas after Governor Abbott got rid of all restrictions.
Right.
Obvious they don't know what the heck they're doing. It's obvious that there could be another agenda taking place here, but even more obvious that all this damage that's been self-inflicted was completely worthless and unnecessary.
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Silver One Resources is an exploration and development company backed by strategic investors Eric Sprott and SSR Mining. At Silver One's Candelaria Mine project in Nevada, there is already a historic resource estimated at 127 million ounces of silver, which Silver One is developing and advancing. The company's Phoenix Silver project, located within the Arizona Silver Belt, is an early-stage exploration project on which native silver vein fragments have been discovered near surface. One grab sample assayed an astounding 14,688 ounces per ton. Yes, that's right, ounces, not grams. Silver One has tremendous exploration potential, is extremely leveraged to the price of silver, and is cashed up and poised to increase shareholder value. Silver One trades in New York under the ticker SLVRF and in Toronto under the ticker SVE. To learn more, go to silverone.com. That's silverone.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Yeah. Well, here in Florida, DeSantis has removed the mask mandate and everything else. So our numbers haven't really gotten worse. And I think half the reason Florida's numbers have gone up a little is because it's a vacation destination.
Spring break.
And yeah, and if you look at air travel right now, I was talking to John Nigerian just recently on my show, who said that he was on an airplane recently on business travel. And usually you sit up in business class on a long flight, and there's a lot of business travelers, the type that they know exactly what to pack, stick in the overhead bags and so on. And this particular trip, it wasn't the road warriors that was up there. It was all vacationers. It was people that, got the money from the government. They're saying, I've been cooped up too long. I want to go spend it. I want to go enjoy it. And with some states like Florida, that's what's bringing some of the virus down here. But I think we're past that, though. I think we're at a point, even California's, opening up now. So I think we're at a point where certainly within the next month or two, states won't be able to, these dictators, as you call them, won't be able to even conjure up with the wildest imagination any excuse for keeping their state closed any longer.
Hey. And in Florida, we do have these mask mandates, but the governor has kind of denuded them by taking away their ability to fine you and jail you. Somebody approached me, some code enforcement officer down in Miami-Dade, and I just complied. And then when she passed by, I just ripped my mask off. I'm literally standing on the street corner. They've already said, the CDC has said it, And the studies have shown your odds of getting it outside are like less than 10% of what they are getting it inside. Not that the mask is going to necessarily help anyway.
Right.
If masks are so great, why do we have a COVID epidemic at all? Everybody's wearing masks all the time. Probably a lot of you to bed, and not for fun and games either, just out of fear that the evil COVID's going to get you. But David, like the damage done to the economy, the increase in debt, the country's massive tilt towards socialism, where does this end?
Well, you had to open up the can of worms about the massive tilt towards socialism, didn't you? You had to open up that can of worms because, in some ways, that's what a lot of people are worried about today. When you're looking at those tax hikes coming up, how money's getting spent, that's a big concern. And I've always said it's always just a matter of time between, the have-nots outvote the haves. And unfortunately, everybody votes their own wallet. I love it when I get somebody who is just average middle-class person, but they're hardworking, they're striving to make more money to become affluent, and they're voting politically conservative because they say, well, I want to get there. I want to have the opportunity to get there. I don't want to hand out. I want to get there. And but most people are voting their pockets today. So every great country has eventually had this situation where they voted benefits for themselves to an extent that there's no turning back. And I'm afraid as a country, we could be on the brink of that happening right now. Not sure there's anything we can do about it. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, look, they want to make the unemployment insurance bonus permanent. There's a drive for that. I mean, it's got to stop because we now have a labor shortage because of unemployment insurance, and it harkens back words of the immortal Milton Friedman, Nobel Prize laureate for economics, who said unemployment insurance was one of the most successful government programs ever concocted because it did exactly what it said. It ensures that we have unemployment. Because I knew from college, there were guys there who would work 6 months and go on unemployment for 6 months. And they did this for years. And some were even doing things more illegal than that, like renting out their social security numbers. So they didn't even have to work. They could just collect unemployment. That's totally illegal, but it's been done. The system is ripe for the taking. When you look at the fraud that took place with the PPP program, the SBA programs, and all the other giveaways that they had out there, that the government is not the one you want. You wouldn't put the government in charge of babysitting your kids, and you sure don't want them to be holding your wallet, although they'll be holding a digital wallet soon enough filled with time expiring Fed coins that if you don't spend them, it's a use them or lose them, David.
Interesting concept. It's weird. If you talk to people in some other parts of the Western world that have tax brackets up around 70% and have the government pays for college education, pays for medicine and everything else, people are generally happy. If you ever talk to some of those folks, they're generally happy. They're generally pretty complacent. Life is good, but there's not a lot of motivation to take the extra step. Which makes sense. There shouldn't be. Why would there be motivation? You're not really getting compensated for making 30 cents of the dollar. And meanwhile, it's no secret that when a lot of those folks that have money, when they need major medical care or surgical procedures, they don't want their medical system to take care of it. They want to come over someplace like ours to take care of it, to get better service, better medical expertise. So look, to me, it's real simple. There are a lot of countries that have taken that model. We don't have to be another one of those countries. We're the United States of America. We're built on certain principles, and borders are fairly open, at least until this pandemic. They were fairly open. They're going to open up again soon. So I'll never forget this one lady. This had to be, Kerry, about 15 years ago. And my first reaction when she told me what I'm about to say to you was of disdain, but that immediately got replaced in my mind with respect for her. Because here's what she said. She was back in the United States from Australia. She was caring for an aging mother. And she says, when my mother passes, I'm going back to Australia. I'm not staying here. And I asked her why. And she said, because In Australia, they take care of their people better. And at first, I thought, that's a terrible attitude. It's just a lazy attitude. You want to have handouts. You want to be taken care of. But when I thought about it for more than a second, I thought, you know what? Good for her. Instead of trying to vote and trying to change our country into Australia, the borders are open. Why not go to a country that has what you want? And if immigration policies are handled the right way here, then people from other countries who want what we have will still be able to come into our country and get it, but to do it legally, not illegally.
Well, we can only hope that you're correct on that score and that a lot more people share her views, David. Just tell us where the best place to find you is and how we connect with you on the web.
Sure. Well, probably best thing, go right to our website for our television show, theincomegeneration.com, theincomegeneration.com, or if they want to find out about our companies, they can go to soundincomestrategies.com.
All right, excellent. And there's a link to it in the show notes. Any email questions you have for David, just email them off to me, kl@kerrylutz.com. That's the address. Make sure you go to our website, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Sign up for our free newsletter. David, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Pleasure's been all mine, Kerry. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.